Ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel Rissola. Gabriel.
Thank you. Well, I have the pleasure to offer the last presentation before the lunch break, I think. So we'll try to not to make it boring. Also because I will come back to policies and also funding opportunities, but from a different angle. My colleague from RTD was speaking about, at the end of his presentation, speaking about the opportunities that are open at regional level. And at this regard, I will refer to how, let's say, EU-level policies meet regional-level policies to put in motion what it's called digital innovation hubs, and this is the topic of my presentation. So, let's see a bit which is the rationale behind this concept of digital innovation hubs, which comes from communication by Commissioner Oettinger last year in April regarding digitizing the European industry. One of the tools conceived for this purpose are those called digital innovation hubs, which are not really new. It's a kind of fancy denomination, let's say, for what we can identify as the ecosystem providing services, especially to SMEs, but I would say to the whole industry, to help it becoming more digital. And the rationale behind is that if we take a look to the level of digitization of the European economy, if you do it by sector, we can see that there is a high contrast between those companies which are already operating in the ICT sector and those, for example, working in basic metals and fabricated metal products, which is 56 versus 6%. Just to show you two extremes of this chart. If we take a look to the size of the companies, there is also a big contrast between big companies and small and medium enterprises, 42% versus 16%. And if we take a look to let's say the geographical imbalances, we can see that on one extreme, the Danish companies are 53% digitized versus only 8% in Bulgaria. So one of the, let's say, leitmotifs of this initiative is indeed to try to leverage the capacities of the productive sectors across Europe and across sectors and across sizes of enterprises. At this regard, the mission of digital innovation hubs, which I repeat, they are not new, it's just a concept that tries to give a new impetus to what's there and creating also digital innovation hubs where there are not. The ambition is that ensure that every business in Europe, whatever its sector of activity, wherever located and whatever its size, can take full advantage of digital innovation and competencies. So innovation and competencies, skills is also part of the picture. As I said before, particular attention is paid to small and medium enterprises. And the idea is that, there is a joint effort between the European institutions and the national and regional governments. And in this endeavor, of course, the industry role is key. Like my colleague was referring to this role in Horizon 2020. Here also, the role played by the private sector is very, very important. From the member states and regions, what's expected is that they develop or strengthen their national and regional digital innovation hubs. The hubs are locally rooted. For example, we have been conducting a mapping of existing hubs across Europe. There are around 500 identified, out of which 4%, which is 18 in this case, are located here in this region, in Catalonia. And on the Commission side, our effort is put on creating a pan-European network of hubs, connecting them each other because hubs are supposed to be specialized in different technologies, for example, in additive manufacturing. Then I will show an example from the Netherlands. And also on the side of the Commission, provide support to cross-border experiments. That's it to, let's say, interregional or inter-states cooperation. All this trying to connect the capacities that are across Europe and complement each other. So if there is, for example, a local need, let's say an SME demanding a certain type of technology which is not available locally through the closer digital innovation hub, through the network, this competence can be identified somewhere else and can be bring to that company, to that client. So digital innovation hub, as I say, it's more a concept of ecosystem, which is rooted on competence centers. For competence centers, I refer to, for example, the companies we see here, technological parks, research centers at universities, etc. So those places where there is a knowledge developed in the field of digitization of the industry. And as you can see in this cloud of words, there is the idea is that this is one-stop shop which provides from awareness raising, service campaigns to let's say, to sensitize SMEs on the relevance of taking advantage of digital opportunities, to accompany or guide these small and medium enterprises and also big enterprises which are not, which cannot do it alone, through a journey through digitization that can, let's say, touch different technologies, but also can touch upon processes and business development. So, so you can see here in this, is it working? Yes. Here, this is the cloud I was referring to, and here you can see somehow the role of the Digital Innovation Hub is the orchestrator of this ecosystem. So at this regard, as I said before, it's not always new. There are organizations which are playing already that role, and this is why we identify almost 500. But there are places, mostly in Eastern Europe, where there is still a need to develop more hubs. So this is why my colleagues at DG Connect, who are dealing mostly with this initiative, have created a guide for digital innovation hubs, which starts from the local or regional level, trying to identify which are the needs. So let's say analyzing the demand, then analyzing which are the competencies available locally, building a shared vision on which could be the mission of the hubs and the services offered, to then build the links and establish collaboration. So create, let's say, the ecosystem when it doesn't exist or it's not strong enough. And then deliver services and assess impact, also making use of available funding opportunities. This means with EU money support. Here, there are two main strands. One is Horizon 2020. My colleague was referring to it before, but then I will mention other calls which are more, let's say, in line with digital innovation hubs. And the other strand of funds comes from what's called smart specialization. I don't know if you are familiar with the concept, but the smart specialization strategies are in the field of research and innovation, every region in Europe which wants to make use of cohesion or structural funds to develop research and innovation strategies have to previously develop a smart specialization strategy, which basically builds upon certain priorities for a given territory. For example, let's say that in Catalonia, these priorities are, let's say, e-health, education, and I don't know which other sector, but it's let's say, a concentration of resources in certain sectors, and then research and innovation go in that direction. So here we are trying to match both sources of funds. Also, I think it was mentioned before, it's the Juncker's plan, or it's the other strand of funds, which is mobilized by the European Investment Bank, which is for a specific project with a high potential to produce an important impact that can be also used here, but this, in this case, is more than funding. It refers to loans. And if you are interested in, here in this link, you can find presentations by country. So if you want to know which is the situation in your country, you can take a look there. Something that we are putting on, well, we have just put online 10 days ago, and indeed we presented this the 22nd of September in Madrid in the Industria Conectada 4.0 event on digital innovation hubs. It's a portal where you can browse through the map where these capacities, where these capacities are located, yes, are distributed. And then we have a service which is a kind of a yellow page where you can select, let's say, either through the search part or browsing on the map. You can access to specific information on one digital innovation hub. For example, this is from South Holland, and it's indeed in the field of additive manufacturing and 3D printing. This smart manufacturing initiative, it's composed of 8 field workspaces where different services are provided, in terms of 3D printing and additive manufacturing to both end customers and suppliers. Then just to let you know about other initiatives that are contributing to this development, previous speaker mentioned I4MS, which is a project for stimulating ICT innovation in manufacturing SMEs. As part of this project, it was finished now, last week indeed, one initiative to let's say, coach potential digital innovation hubs. There were 29. And this coaching and also training program went through developing the innovation ecosystem, finances, which are very important to the development of the ecosystem, matchmaking, and also service provision. Then this other project, which just started, is focused on Central and Eastern Europe. Indeed, as I said before, it's where figures say that the capacities are less developed. There is more need to catch up. And there is right now an open call until 22nd of October for those, let's say, local partners, local entities who would be interested in becoming a hub or being part of a hub. And then there is also in the work program, Horizon 2020 work program for 2019-2020, some funds that will be put to, let's say, to empower the network of digital innovation hubs. With a special focus again in the regions, well, in this case, industrial regions which are underrepresented in the innovation hubs ecosystem. So I will not say too much about Horizon 2020, well, except that it's around 100 million euros that the European Commission is putting every year since 2016 in this endeavor. And also the focus is both on creating the network of the hubs and cross-border experiments, as I said in a previous slide. On the side of regional funds, as I said before, structural and investment funds are related to these smart specialization strategies. So here we can see that there are around 2 billion that are already let's say, approved to support digitizing the industry, in particular SMEs at regional level, to develop ICT products and services, e-commerce, and the take-up of ICT. 1.2 billion to support skills, let's say, and inclusion. 7.6 billion for different kind of technologies related especially to smart cities. And also over 100 regions and 14 countries out of the EU of the 28, for the time being, that at national level have already planned to invest resources in ICT-related research and innovation for a total amount of 42 billion euros. And this, in Horizon 2020 work program for the last 3 years of this programming period, you can see here which are the upcoming calls, which could be of your interest. Here, this means smart, anywhere, everything. So this is in 2019 coming in support of this initiative, which is ongoing. There is another call next year on robotics. There is another phase of I4MS planned for 2020, another one on photonics, and another one on big data. There are other sectors, for example, agriculture, where digital innovation hubs are also expected to play a role, in this case in rural areas. And here you can have access to the draft of this work program, which is not still approved, but you can have an idea of what has been planned so far. Well, I will not, let's say, pay too much attention to the examples here, because you have much better examples that you can touch around in this exhibition. But I would like to focus on few main messages. And the first one is that we are looking for a match between different initiatives coming from, let's say, from the top-down level, like Horizon 2020, which is a program which is EU broad, to those initiatives coming from the local level through regional and even national initiatives. Secondly, to build hubs in your country, in your territories, if you are interested in that, or you want to know more about that, there is a working group created between the Commission and stakeholders to deploy this digital innovations hub concept, which is which is available online. Then I will share the link. And also highlight that for the next months and years, more emphasis will be put on how to finance these hubs, because they are big endeavors. And still combining funds coming from Horizon 2020 and structural funds, it's very difficult because of the bureaucracy, because of the complexity, and this is something that has to be simplified. So here, as I said before, you see you have the report of the working group. where you can see which are the plans more in details. Here, the catalog of hubs that we have just launched 10 days ago, which I said before, we have a map around, almost 500 hubs across Europe. And also in Futurium, which is a space where Connect is sharing information on ongoing initiatives related to digitizing the European industry. You can have also the access to the broader picture. Regarding this new project for EU 13, so for Eastern and Central Europe countries, there is a mentoring program and there is an open call to apply the 22nd of October and until the 22nd of October. And in this link, you can find all the information in case of interest. Then for Horizon 2020, proposers or, let's say, usual partners are and coordinators of projects. Probably you know this already, but there is an ICT Proposer Day planned for next month, 9th and 10th of November in Budapest. And finally, if we are interested to know more or to be part of our efforts to develop and to help networking the hubs, you can contact me more for the, let's say, local and regional dimension, or you can contact my colleague Anne-Marie Sassen in DigiConnect for the EU and national level initiatives. So this is all I wanted to share with you. I think, if you have any question, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, have a good lunch.
Do we have any questions? Anybody that would like to ask any questions from our small audience? No? Well then, Gabriel, thank you very much for coming. We have a small gift as a token of the appreciation from USTRY. Very good. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you very much, the European Commission.
Thank you.